A significant event is unfolding in America, but not many people are talking about it. In just a few months, thousands of restaurants all throughout the country will close for good. And we're not talking about sandwich shops owned by families or diners in little towns. We're talking about giants, famous names that used to be the kings of American dining. Red Lobster, Applebee's, even Salt Bay's empire of dazzling gold-covered steaks. They're all slowly fading away in front of our eyes. This isn't just a few terrible choices in business. It's something far more serious. A full-blown extinction catastrophe in the restaurant world, and if you believe you'll still be able to eat your favorite BBQ ribs or shrimp scampi next year, you might be in for an unpleasant shock. We're going to talk about 10 of the top restaurant chains in the US that might not make it to 2020 to 25 and the true reasons why they're coming apart. Warning, it's not just about the money, it's about the end of a way of life that just doesn't work in modern America. Let's get started, starting with one that hits close to heart, the Subway. When was the last time you really went to Subway? Give it some thought. For years, students, office workers, and anyone else who wanted something less fatty than a burger went there for lunch. Quick, cheap, and kind of healthy. But what now? Subway stores are closing quickly, and this isn't just a rumor. More than 4,000 Subway restaurants in the U.S. have shuttered in the previous 5 years. They had more than 27,000 locations in 2015. That number went down to about 20,000 by the end of 2024, and it is going down every month. So what happened? Let's be honest. Subway's idea of healthy just doesn't cut it anymore. People today desire authentic, fresh, and clean food, but what about Subway? It still sells canned toppings, limp lettuce, and processed meats. Eat fresh sounds more like a joke than a guarantee now. Second, there's the public relations nightmare. The brand's reputation has endured hit after hit, from the debate about whether their bread is legally bred in Ireland to the horrible fall of former spokesperson Jared Fogle. And as we all know, Americans don't forgive very often when they lose trust. Next, there's the competition. Chains like Panera Bread, Jersey Mike's, and Firehouse Subs did really well. They brought in new, clear menus and modern-looking spaces that are inviting. Subway, on the other hand, kept the same old decor, fast service, and sandwiches that seem to get smaller every time you go. Even after Rourke Capital bought Subway in 2023, there wasn't much chance for a comeback. None of the people who started the company are still involved. It's like a ship that's lost at sea, no captain, no direction, and it's steadily sinking. Will Subway even be around in 2025? Or will it just be a recollection of soggy sandwiches and hurried lunches in stores that are now dark and empty? Next up is Hooters. Imagine driving by a shopping complex and seeing that old, dusty orange Hooters sign barely hanging on. There are no cars in the parking lot. The place appears like it hasn't changed in a long time. You can practically hear the ghost of rock music from the 1990s playing inside, and to be honest, it might be time to face the truth. America has moved on from Hooters. Hooters used to be more than just a place to eat. It was a full idea. Beer, beings, mace, sports, and ladies in tight clothes were all advertised as the best guys' night out. But guess what? It's not 1995 anymore. The world has changed a lot since 2025. Technomics says that in 2012, Hooters has about 430 sites in the U.S. That number went down to less than 280 by 2024, and more stores are closing. Big towns like Chicago, Houston, and even San Diego are losing stores. What is the bigger problem? People just don't go anymore. A Statista poll from 2023 found that more than 60% of Americans between the ages of 18 and 34 don't like the old-fashioned, overly sexual atmosphere at Hooters. Younger people don't want to eat somewhere that makes their partner or themselves feel weird. People desire experiences these days, yummy meal, a friendly environment. They might even have values that are similar to theirs. But what about Hooters? It stayed stuck in the past, expecting that memories would help it go on. It didn't. So, is this the end of Hooters? Yes, all signs point to yes. The brand that used to sell fantasy is now simply another restaurant that customers drive by without looking. And even if you forget about the Hooters image, let's be honest, the cuisine isn't that great either. Business Insider says that the menu at Hooters gets an average of only 2.9 out of 5 stars on Yelp in the 3 states with the most people. In today's very competitive food world, that kind of rating is virtually a death sentence. 3. Red Lobster. Oh, Red Lobster. It wasn't simply dinner for a lot of families in the US, it was a special event. The place to go to celebrate a promotion, an anniversary, or your child's getting on the honor roll. It was a luxury that didn't cost too much. Not too fancy, yet special enough to feel like a special event. It was a form of prize for the working class. You earned the Cheddar Bay biscuit because you worked hard all week. But now, even that small prize is getting harder to get. Red Lobster is in big difficulty, and it's not only because of its business model or profit margins, it's a sign of trouble, a sign that the basic pleasures that used to bring people together are going away, along with the chains that made them seem attainable. Thai Union Group, the Thailand-based corporation that owns a big part of Red Lobster, says that the brand lost more than $33 million in the first quarter of 2024. That's a period of 3 months, and now they're thinking about closing hundreds of stores just to stay in business. So what's happening? It's a storm that's just right. The price of seafood, especially crab and lobster, has gone through the roof. Everything is getting more expensive because of inflation. Costs of labor are greater. The rent is sky high. The well-known $20 endless shrimp deal, it's no longer a draw, it's a liability. They're actually losing money with each plate. But the bigger problem is that Red Lobster is losing its main customers. According to a 2023 FSR magazine poll, Red Lobster lost more than 30% of its regular customers compared to before the outbreak. That's a lot. Some people just can't afford to go out anymore. Some people desire something newer, more local, and more current. They like experiences to chains. Now, when you go to Red Lobster, it doesn't feel like a party. It feels nothing. The lights are on, but the seats are frigid. The chatter has stopped, and the sad truth is that Red Lobster might not be too far behind. From New Jersey to Arizona, it's becoming all too typical to see enormous empty restaurant buildings with for lease signs in the windows. Spaces that used to be full with life and birthday dinners, date nights, and family parties are now silent and nearly forgotten. People aren't avoiding Red Lobster because they don't love it anymore. They aren't going because they just can't afford it anymore. In today's America, where owning a home seems like a dream, healthcare prices are too high for families, and student loans feel like life sentences, even a simple seafood meal on the weekend is now too expensive. It's not just about eating, it's about pride, about respect. Red Lobster used to show that those who worked hard could still have fun without spending a lot of money, but now that feeling is starting to fade. Red Lobster was more than just a place to eat. It was a sign of a new sort of America, one where the middle class could still breathe. Many experts in the field think that the chain will go out of business around 2025, and if that happens, it won't just be the loss of a firm. It will hit you hard in the gut to remember how quickly that version of America is going away. And that leads us to number 4, Applebee's. When was the last time you went to an Applebee's? Not for a birthday or a party, just a normal Friday night. You had a tough week and maybe picked up the kids or clocked out late. All you wanted was something easy, familiar, a steak from Bourbon Street, a Long Island that's frigid, a booth where you may hang out with friends or family for a while. Applebee's never wanted to be a 5-star restaurant, but it was the heart of the community, where teachers, nurses, construction workers, and office workers all met. And now, that neighbor is going away slowly. Applebee's shut down more than 46 locations in the U.S. in 2023 alone. Dine Brands, the corporation that owns Applebee's, says that by the end of 2025, another 25 to 35 outlets could be closed. The margins on profits are getting smaller, and every year it's tougher to stay alive. But this isn't just a drop in sales. There's more to it. Applebee's is stuck in a change in how Americans dine out. This is what's going on. As costs go up, most individuals have to choose between saving money by cooking at home or going all out and spending more on a high-end experience that feels worth the money. Applebee's and other mid-range chains, they're stuck in the middle. Not special enough to be a treat, yet too pricey to be casual, and the numbers show it. Technomics says that since the outbreak, people have been going back to Applebee's almost 20% less often. And most of the people who still eat there, they are older than 45. A generation that is loyal, that is steadily losing interest in going to restaurants. 5, Salt Bae. Let's be honest, this was never the kind of place you would go after work in your hoodie to get a fast bite. And to be honest, a lot of Americans will never even go to a Salt Bae restaurant. Why? It's almost crazy unless you're a millionaire or just pretending to be one. A single Salt Bae burger? That will cost $120. Want a piece of his famous salted Wagyu? Pay $1,000. And if you really want to go all out with the steak wrapped in 24-karat gold, you better be ready to spend $500 before the tip. Salt Bae was the moment for a short, shining time, though. The restaurant empire Nusret, which was established around the man in sunglasses who poured salt like a ballet dancer, became viral on social media. Famous people, social media stars, and athletes all wanted to be on the show. They weren't just getting food, They were buying the dream, the flash, the bend. But like most things that are popular on the internet, it didn't last. Things began to fall apart in 2023, notably in the US. His restaurants in New York, Miami, and Las Vegas started to have problems. There were a lot of complaints on review sites like Yelp and Google. Ridiculous prices, mediocre food, and terrible service. One client even said it was an expensive disappointment with a side of salt. The Financial Times says that several U.S. newsreel outlets had to fire employees, cut back on their menus, and in certain cases, their sales fell by 40% in just 1 year. The media even called it Salt Bay burnout. People were tired of the showy behavior, the extravagance, and the feeling that money was the only thing that mattered while the rest of the country was quietly trying to purchase food. And that's the thing. In a world when working Americans are skipping breakfast to save money and the prices of basic foods have gone up by more than 150% since the pandemic, a restaurant made of gold flakes and ego doesn't just seem out of touch, it seems rude. Salt Bay didn't simply sell meat, he was peddling a dream of luxury that most people could never afford. But after the event was over and folks understood it was more about show than substance, they left. No regrets. In countries like Dubai or Istanbul, where luxury is still a big lure, his brand might still have legs. But what about here in the US? That last dramatic sprinkle of salt might already be over. Number 6 is the Cheesecake Factory. You know it. A big bright sign and a stylish awning, generally on a big mall. The Cheesecake Factory has always been a symbol of luxury. Huge servings, the menu that goes on and on for 6 pages, little pieces of cheesecake that make you feel like you're having a party. But now, ask a regular customer if they still go as regularly. You might be surprised by the response, because in today's economy, you have to pay for your indulgences. And what is that price? It's getting harder and harder to explain. What used to feel like a nice treat now seems expensive. Today, a Cheesecake Factory meal for 2, at least $50 to $60, not including the tip. Families who are already having trouble making ends meet because of increased rent, medical bills, and grocery costs will find it hard to believe. The National Restaurant Association says that the Cheesecake Factory has lost more than 20% of its customers from 2018 to 2023. Why? 2 reasons. It's cheap and quick. In a world where people prefer meals that are quick and easy, rivals like Chipotle and Panera Bread are doing well. They know how to serve modern, quick, and personalized meals. On the other hand, Cheesecake Factory seems to be moving quite slowly. And the price isn't the only problem. The Cheesecake Factory's huge 250-item menu used to be its best feature. There are so many options. There's something for everyone. But what about today? That same menu now seems like a chore instead than a bonus. People come in hungry and leave feeling full. There are too many choices. Nothing stands out. It's a lot of the same thing, a sea of meals that all look the same and make people feel more tired than excited. And then there's the mood. What used to feel like high-end but friendly now feels a little too general. In the past, the Cheesecake Factory had a big, expensive feel to it. What now? It has to compete with nearby places that have comfortable atmospheres, trendy decor, and new imaginative menus, all for less money. Indie cafes and local bistros feel a lot more worth it, especially for younger diners. Why spend $60 on a lunch that tastes the same as the last one when you can get something quick, excellent, and half the price at a place that seems to understand you? That's the issue. In today's fast-paced, budget-conscious society, high pricing and a menu that hasn't changed in a while are starting to feel like a problem. People in the US want things to be easier, clearer, and more valuable. And brands that are based on too much are being left behind. Buffalo Wild Wings is number 7. People used to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, or B-dubs as they like to call it, for game night. Friends, wings, beers, and big TVs. It was full of enthusiasm. There was a buzz. But what about now? That hangout that used to be unstoppable is losing steam. Quick! What happened then? Let's talk about how Americans eat. Beer, wings, and sports are what made B-dubs famous, but that recipe isn't working as well as it used to. Gen Z and millennials are shaking things up. More and more individuals are choosing meals that are healthier, lighter, and more attentive. The oily, hefty, deep-fried plates that used to be a sinful delight now merely feel, well, guilty. Statista says that Buffalo Wild Wings sales have gone down by almost 15% since 2018. That's a significant thing for a brand that is all about luxury. And it's not only the food. Fast casual companies like Chipotle and Panera are doing great because they know how to deliver meals that are quick, tasty, and make you feel good. Their menus are easy to understand, their branding is clear, and they talk directly to a generation that desires both health and ease. Then there's the mood. Buffalo Wild Wings became known for its noise, lots of people, TVs that are too loud, a lot of jerseys, and fans yelling. But of days, more people want peace after a long day. They don't want to holler over 12 different sports channels that are all on at the same time. Things that used to be fun suddenly seem like effort. When you add in growing prices, the picture becomes even apparent. It could cost $30 to $40 for two people to go out to B-dubs in 2022. But at Wingstop or Zaxby's, the same meals can only cost $20 to $25. And what about this economy? That discrepancy in pricing is important? A lot. So can Buffalo Wild Wings get back on its feet? It's possible. But big adjustments will have to happen. A smaller menu, better options for your health, better value, a more welcoming space that meets people where they are now. But changes like that require time. And in a market where tastes change quickly, time is running out. The truth is that B-dubs isn't only battling off other businesses, it's fighting against a change in culture. A new way of thinking that makes people want better food, better moods, and better prices all at once. Buffalo Wild Wings could end up being another place that people remember fondly but never go to if they don't catch up. Buffalo Wild Wings used to be the best place to get wings, beer, and watch the big game. Now, it's simply one of several places striving to keep that similar vibe. And if it doesn't change quickly, it might become just another restaurant in America's cutthroat restaurant scene. Taco Bell is number 8. Oh, Taco Bell, it's been a late night tale for years. The restaurant you went to after a concert, on a road trip, or when you needed a cheap taco fix at 1 a.m. But the major question now is, can Taco Bell be relevant in a world where food is changing quicker than ever? People still love cheap, quick cuisine, but they want more than that. More healthy food, more openness, more actual things. That's when Taco Bell starts to shake. Yes, it is bright. Yes, it is cheap. But by 2025, that won't be enough. Tastes in America are changing quickly, especially people in Gen Z and millennials. They're more aware of what they eat. They look at the labels. They count their macros. They don't simply want food that tastes nice anymore. They want food that makes them feel good after they consume it. That's why businesses like Chipotle and Panera Bread are doing so well. They've taken advantage of people's need for quick, fresh meals. In balance, neat, all of it. In the meantime, Taco Bell is still known for its fatty, laden food. Yummy, of course, but is it good for you? Not really. The stats tell the story. Taco Bell sales only went up 3% in 2023, which isn't very good compared to competitors like Chick-fil-A and Chipotle, whose sales climbed far faster. Taco Bell has tried to change. There have been vegan foods, vegetarian attempts, and changes to make things gluten-free. But let's be honest, they seem more like tiny side projects than a big change. And that half step isn't enough for a generation that wants real change. There is also the question of how Taco Bell sets its prices. For decades, its best feature was how cheap it was. But now that prices are going up and inflation is growing, it's harder than ever to stay cheap without giving up quality. Customers notice when you cut corners to keep costs down, and if you raise pricing, you'll lose the value-driven customers that helped you build your business. So, what's next? Taco Bell will have to change if it wants to make it through this next wave. Find a way to make food that tastes good, is fresh, and is lighter and more modern at the same time. Number 9 is IHOP. The name IHOP brings back happy memories for our misal, fluffy pancakes, golden hash browns, and sugary everything else were all there. It was the location where everyone in America had breakfast together, where Sunday mornings meant booths full with family, coffee refills, and the pleasure of being in a familiar place. But what about now? That warm feeling of nostalgia might not be enough, because breakfast is changing. We are too. IHOP used to be the best place to get a classic American breakfast, but the people who eat out today are different. They are keeping track of sugar, keeping an eye on their carbs, asking for protein pancakes, oat milk, and plant-based sausage, and the business is paying attention. Fast casual breakfast businesses are becoming more popular. These are locations where you may get healthy, personalized selections that meet your busy life. You can go in, get something quick, eat light, and yet be full. That's what IHOP has to deal with. It is based on enormous, luxurious breakfasts, soaked in butter, full of syrup, made to satisfy but not necessarily to provide you energy for the day. So now the question is clear. Can IHOP stay in business in a country that values health, quickness, and choice over tradition? The National Restaurant Association says that Americans are losing their taste for the traditional breakfast. Over the previous 5 years, people have eaten 44% fewer pancakes, which used to be IHOP's best-selling item. That's a huge blow for a brand that built its whole identity upon sticky stacks and hot skillets. IHOP has trying to keep up. To keep up with the times, they've added salads, smoothies, and even lighter menu items. But let's be honest, those modifications haven't really gotten people excited again. They seem more like afterthoughts than a real change. And then there's the bigger problem: structure. Most IHOPs are still old-school eateries where you sit down. They're cute, but they cost a lot to run. Chick-fil-A and Shake Shack are examples of fast casual, high turnover, low overhead businesses that are popular these days. IHOP's massive traditional setups just can't compete with them on speed, cost, or flexibility. What if you throw in inflation, greater wages, and increasing costs of doing business? All of a sudden, those nice booze and free coffee refills start to seem like problems instead of benefits. IHOP isn't the only place to eat anymore, which is even worse. First Watch and Eggs Up Grill are two new places that are changing the way people eat breakfast. They have healthier, more fashionable menus that fit with the modern idea of clean eating and well-being. For example, they provide avocado toast, cage-free eggs, and organic coffee. They're not only giving people what they want, they're also giving them what they believe in. There is no denying that IHOP still has dedicated fans, but the brand is really under a lot of stress. IBISWorld says that their sales dropped by 3.6% in 2023, which is a bad sign as many of its competitors are still growing. So what's next? IHOP's future is not guaranteed until it can change its brand, update its menu, and fully embrace the wellness movement that is taking over the food business. It's a well-known brand that is at a crossroads that it can't ignore. Number 10, TGI Fridays. Fridays at TGI. Just hearing the name brings back memories of Friday nights with pals, huge burgers, loaded potato skins, and those distinctive cocktails served with style. It was loud and entertaining, and it was the best way to start the weekend. But here's the brutal truth: TGI Fridays is in big peril. This isn't simply a downturn, it's a crisis. Fridays, which opened in 1965, used to be the place to go for casual American food. It had character, it was charming, and the red and white colors made you want to go out. But what about 2025? It's a different story. The money coming in has dropped a lot. IBISWorld says that TGI Fridays sales fell by 4% in 2023. Some of its competitors, like Applebee's and Chili's, have at least been able to keep their sales steady. That drop means something bigger. People aren't choosing Fridays anymore, and it's not because the business hasn't made an effort. They've changed their branding, menu, and started new promotions, but none of it has really made a difference. Why? Because the world of dining has changed quickly. People today desire things that are fresh, quick, and adaptable. They care about what goes into it, about the mood, about acquiring anything useful. TGI Fridays still feels like it's stuck in the past, no matter what it does. And in this business, nostalgia alone won't pay the bills.